definitely let me know in the comments below what you're thinking about this Devin Vassell pick. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited. I think he was a great positional fit, and just after talking to him, it seems like he's a good organizational fit, attitude fit. Um, this worked out pretty well for the Spurs, I would say. Let's see if we can't get Evan in here. There he is. How's it going, Evan?
It's going well. I just had to get you some shine, man, and tweet out your combo there with Mr. Vassell.
Oh, me? Okay. Well, thank you. We're just gonna wait another minute here till we're streaming live on all of our platforms. But yeah, that was cool to get to talk to him. Obviously, of course, had to ask him about breakfast tacos.
It's crazy. He's never had breakfast tacos.
I mean, it's not a Georgia thing.
No, I get it, but like you'd think that Florida State or you'd think you'd like in your travels, especially if you're a super accomplished basketball player, you land in Texas at some point and have a breakfast taco.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a breakfast taco of choice in San Antonio?
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing with that is, like, if you haven't had a San Antonio breakfast taco, you haven't really had a breakfast taco. I don't think. But yeah, no, we'll have that full video of Devin Vassell up on our site and our YouTube. Actually, right now, I just hit the button. So later, if you want to go check that out and see what he said to all of the assembled media, virtually assembled media, he was asked a bunch of questions, and his answers to those questions were pretty solid. What were you? If you could have asked him something, what would you have asked him?
Yeah, it's like, but we're gonna give a question to the guy from Chicago. Come on. If I were to have a question, I just wanted to know really more of his knowledge of the Spurs. Like, he said he watched a lot of basketball, so he gets it. I just wanted to know how much of the Spurs he watched when he was watching other games. He said he watches tons of film. Is there any Spurs player in the past that he really liked to look at, that he came across? So those were my questions that I just wanted to know more in relation to San Antonio. But it didn't seem like, at least with the players on this team, he didn't have a relationship with anybody. So he's coming in fresh. DeJounte, I'm sure, will take him under his wing because that's what DeJounte does. And man, is a humble dude. You could tell he's just a really good kid, just likes to work hard. He was so adamant about saying how he will just fit into whatever role the Spurs want.
Right.
And the biggest thing was he worked out for the Spurs. And earlier in the week, he mentioned teams that he worked out for, I believe, and did not mention the Spurs. So
sneaky.
my conspiracy theory is not only did the Spurs tell him, do not mention you worked out for us, but they are the ones who released the video of him shooting. And this is what makes the Spurs the greatest organization in basketball. They are playing chess while you are playing checkers.
Hey, I mean, we know Greg Popovich graduated with a degree in Soviet studies, right? That would be a very that was compromise, right? They got him on a compromise. That trebuchet shot tanked his value. But yeah, we're up live on all of our platforms here. Hello to everybody, all of the Spurs fans out there. Let us know in the comments how you're feeling about this Devin Vassell pick. We just talked to him for a couple minutes, and this kid seems like really, really down to earth. My first question for him was, what is he into off the court? He basically just said he's a really low key, chill guy, and definitely got that from him as he spoke and as he answered these questions. He just seems like he'll get along great with Lonnie Walker, like he'll get along great with Derek and DeJounte, who you know they really just love hooping and working on hooping. And I don't think you're gonna find this guy, out of the clubs. I think he's gonna be a
You will
pretty
find him
low
at Top
key.
Golf, evidently, though.
Yes, he mentioned Top Golf as one thing that in clubs if you're 6'7", right? And have a 6'10" wingspan. Like what are they shorter or longer? I guess it depends. Uh, but
I don't know. Well,
you know,
I'll
he
have to set up a tee time with him.
he just seems to be a really good organizational fit. Attitude wise, and certainly with what he brings on the court. I mean, this guy, talk about filling a need. He mentioned, he was asked by Paul Garcia, Project Spurs, um, what's your preferred position? Could you play small ball for? Um, and he said his most natural position is shooting guard. Um, but he's 6'7". He's got that big wingspan. He can certainly play on the wing at the three, and he said as much. He said I played at the small forward all through college. So, and another thing that he mentioned, from high school to college to now going into the NBA, it's whatever the team needs. He can be a little more flexible. He can be a little bit more moldable into a role that whatever the Spurs need him to do, he can do. In your eyes, on day one, what is his role on this team going to be?
So, just for this season, I have to see if he's going to actually. We got to figure out the G League situation. Is he going to go down to the G League? Is he beyond that? We always joke like all the prospects go down to the G League to figure their stuff out. It's tough to know if San Antonio will actually do that with Vassell because they really haven't had this high of a draft pick in 20 plus years. So they haven't had this kind of caliber of player to bring into the organization in a long time, and that's not any shade to Keldon or to DeJounte or to Derek. These guys are great, but sometimes you need to, they need a little bit more work. You want to get them some more reps. So I don't know if on day one he would go down to the G League if the G League is existing this year. He very well might for at least a small stint. I don't think he's going to spend all year down there if that does happen. I think if he does get sent down there, it's to really learn the terminology system, and then he'll do the stuff where he drives back and forth. But day one, I probably see him, if it was at least me, coming off the bench in like a 5 to 7 minute role of sorts, maybe like at the end of the third quarter, beginning of second quarter sort of deal is when you try to play him. I don't envision like he's going to be starting day one, but he's an impressive dude, and throughout the course of the season, I would bet a lot of money you'll see a little bit more of Vassell as the season goes on. But day one, the Spurs are going to take it slow. That's what they do, especially in a year where things are so compact and we're moving really fast into the new year. There's really going to be no time to sort of waste in, taking a step back and sort of like easing him into the process. He's going to be thrust right in, and he'll have to figure it out. And for the Spurs, figuring it out usually takes a little bit of time. I also want to say Jaden McDaniels was just taken. So
Bye.
I think the Wolves, I think I saw, but there have been so many pick trades. I think it's to the Knicks. So I think the Knicks got Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, we're getting to that point in the evening where it's like we don't know whose picks are whose.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I hear what you're saying on his roll out of the gate. I disagree, and I'll tell you why in a second. First, I gotta just address our friend Mariah from KENS in the comments here. These are not cats. It's a floral print here. Um,
Hello,
but
Mariah.
how's it going, Mariah? Always good to see you. But as far as Vassell's ability goes, highest Spurs draft pick since Tim Duncan. Um, and I recently, and by recently I mean 30 minutes ago, saw a Spurs fan who was not excited about him and compared him to Kyle Anderson. That's not the comp here. I
That's not
mean,
the
they're
comp.
they're both 6'7", sure, uh, but the comp is Kawhi to me, um, and you know it's because he's the Spurs took Kawhi. They traded up to 15 to get Kawhi, um, and at this point in their career, shot, um, and he has that next level to get to with playmaking, but he's shown flashes of that. Um, if you had to pick a comp for him, who would you say?
Oh man. Oh. Um. It's a good
I think his
question.
coach
I
mentioned
think
Klay
Kawhi.
Thompson.
I think Kawhi, I need him to fill out a bit. But I mean, yeah, like Kawhi year one, wasn't the Kawhi who he is now. I mean,
Of
Kawhi
course,
worked his tail off, and to that credit, Kawhi found a role year one with a stacked team, and so we're not even talking about a
right.
stacked team this time around.
Exactly.
So
And that's why I think he's going to play more than your typical Spurs rookie. Because your typical
yeah,
Spurs rookie, I mean,
and
forget about the complications with COVID. Forget about if we even have a G League season and, the complications of going back and forth and the health implications of all of that. You know, this is the best drafted on draft night in a very long time. And because
oh,
of
totally.
who he is and what he does, he's very easy to plug and play. Like I don't think there's a team in the league that you could drop Devin Vassell onto, and he wouldn't be at the very least a productive defender and floor spacer. So for all those reasons, I think we're going to see quite a bit of Devin Vassell in San Antonio, pretty much from the jump. I think they're going to want to get him involved and developing chemistry with these guys right away. So,
So here,
I go
uh,
ahead.
I wanted to look up wingspan and height and all that stuff before I said it. But uh, would Covington not be a
Covington's a little
Covington
bigger.
S? He is his
Covington's a little
wingspan
bigger,
is
but
bigger.
I think he's a better shot creator than Covington, though.
I can agree with that.
And yeah, somebody in here mentioned his weight. He definitely needs to bulk up a little bit if
No,
he's
he
going to
he
be,
does.
especially if he's going to be guarding up a position at that small ball four, like he was asked. I think that might be, where he fits with this group, at least at the three. I don't think we'll see much of him at the two, but it depends. I mean, again, that's the thing. That's one of the very attractive things about Devin Vassell, right? The versatility. You can play him in a whole variety of situations, and he's going to be impactful because of his skill set, his intelligence for the
Yeah,
game,
and
and
and I totally and I said that as well. Like, look, this is the best raw skills position that they drafted. Not, I mean, traded up for. We can talk about Kawhi, but in 2 decades. So, you know, I would love to say that he's going to play right away. We have lived in a world where the Spurs are very conservative with their prospects. I just don't know. Mostly a little bit. But I think that he's, I've said this even during the draft role here and there. He doesn't need to spend time in the G League, in my opinion. If he's going down to the G League, it's only just to kind of get him, it's to kind of teach him. Like, let's say that Greg Popovich and Bunch, they wanted to start running things right away. I remember the last couple of years, Pop has talked about how they need, at least 2 years ago, they needed to do so much more teaching on day one than ever before. And that hindered some growth because they had the same team year after year, and day one was probably like day 20 for other teams. So I don't know if they're going to get in with with a group that's been together for a long time, and tell Vassell, or they might send him down to Austin to be like, look, we're going to give you like a couple of weeks here.
We'll get him back. But yeah, man, I hear what he's saying. You back, Evan? All right, there you go.
Say that the only way I see him going down to the G League is just to allow him to learn things at a slower pace out of the gates. And again, I don't see him playing 40, 30, 20 games in the G League. It would be probably like 10 to 12 max, and then that would kind of be over. So I'm not saying that's going to happen or they're going to go that route. I'm just saying that if he does get sent to the G League, I can understand why from that perspective, but I do think he is NBA ready and could fulfill some sort of role for a team who desperately needs his skill set.
Right. Now, something that I'm thinking about now in terms of what makes him different from some of the more recent Spurs first round picks, you look at, I mean, obviously Luka Šamanić last year when they took him project, but
Yep.
DeJounte, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson, all the first three absolutely guards. And Keldon in Austin, they were teaching him to be a point guard essentially. So because Vassell plays more of an off-ball role, and I guess in a sense there's maybe a little less to learn about running the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you got to know where to be, but do you think that the positional element of it will have any impact on that?
In my opinion, it should. Whether you want to keep him with the group and not play him right away and allow him to ease into things, but they need him. They need his skill set. He fits into what this group. So I don't know what it's going to look like from day one, but as I said, I'm way more optimistic midway through the season that his role will expand in some regard, because he's a good talent, and as he gets stronger and his body fills out, I'm very excited to see what he's going to turn into. I have a really good friend who's a great talent evaluator, has worked in NBA circles through analytics and whatnot, and I was talking with him, and he just sent me a message. It's like, the Spurs do not miss. They do not miss. And this, he loves him. He's analytically very friendly, and you gotta find a role for him and take whatever rookie lumps there are going to be in that limited role. Unlike what Walker treatment, where I don't know, I guess he didn't box out or something, and he got benched for 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and I think for all of the reasons that we've said, because he is so NBA ready, because he has these physical tools, because he is you know, I mean, he's certainly the most complete player that they have drafted in a long time, and uh, he just screams, "Throw me into the fire and
Hmm.
see what happens." Um, so yeah, I have high hopes for his rookie year. Maybe probably not rookie of the year, but I think he'll probably be by the end of the year an impactful rotation player playing about 18 to 20 a game. Um, I, I think he'll get to that point. Um, so we're currently wrapping up the first round here. The Boston Celtics are on the clock with pick number 30.
Hmm.
Um, Looking at the board here, who are you hoping falls to the Spurs at 41?
I'm gonna pull up the board right now to just make sure I don't say name because I missed a little bit of those middle picks while we were on the
Right. Yeah.
call.
Well,
So
once the
I
Spurs
did
pick, we
see.
started talking about that
Yeah, I did just see Malachi Flynn get taken for Toronto, which is like the perfect Fred VanVleet replacement.
replacement. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's
I'm
gone.
yeah, and it looks well, the Grizzlies took Desmond Bain, who I really liked, so that
Mm.
stinks. That was going to be a name that I said. Great job by the Grizz, the TCU product. Teo Maladon is up there, and not that I necessarily am in love with him. He was once considered a lock for the lottery and really slipped. We do know that the um, Spurs I think the Spurs worked him out, right? Now I'm like all mush. I believe they did, didn't
They
they?
either worked him out or they interviewed him.
I'm
Um,
almost certain that the Spurs worked out Teo Maladon. I would be like I'm like
and this is a
90%
Tony
sure.
Parker protege, right?
Correct.
He played for Tony's team in France.
Yeah. So there is that
So
connection there, which um, gives me some interest. Xavier Tillman is an interesting guy.
yes, I
So
really like him.
I and as far as like I mean, his role on the court is one thing, but he is just such a good dude. Like that, he is an awesome guy. I wonder, do they want to step back into with Woodard?
I mean, maybe if he's still available.
Yeah,
Right now,
I'm just
ESPN has him as the third ranked best available.
yeah. They can
With
get another Mississippi State guy and another Colorado guy in Tyler Bay.
right. So as far as big men go, we talked to Vassell and he said, somewhere between shooting guard and small forward. I can see him playing small ball four, depending on the lineup, depending on the opponent. But do you think that the Spurs will look for like a big man, a true big man, or just
I
go best
think
player
I think
at this point?
man. So I want to say I'm thinking that Oturu is a guy also who was once considered a lottery pick and has slipped. His shot has looked better in the workout videos that I've seen. Um, so, another name out there, which has been a popular name with a wide ranging amounts of opinions, have been Tyrell Terry, who
Mm-hmm.
is like a $1.75 and a soaking wet t-shirt and like 9 soaking wet t-shirts. Like that dude needs to find a barbell. But beyond that, I mean, he's got some like Steph Curry in his game. That's what makes people so exciting because he's got that electricity factor. But yeah, so I guess for me, I'm thinking that Tillman, Oturu, um, and another late guy that I like, which I don't.
Tyler Bay.
Tyler Bay taken.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
No. I was just
Oh, Tyler
lumping him
Bay.
in with the
Yeah, another
bigs.
big. Yeah. And not that I necessarily love him for
What
the
about
Spurs.
Reggie Perry?
Yeah, yeah, like
Another Mississippi State guy.
yeah, and Killian Tilly. I'm not gonna forget him this time.
Is he still on the board?
He is.
Really?
I, I I can say that I can almost guarantee you that Devin Vassell will not be in Austin all year. And
Right.
again, um, don't make me go on a rant about how Austin uh, looks okay. Um, there are a lot of benefits with Austin. Do the Spurs sometimes abuse staying there too long? Sure. I don't think Keldon needed to be in Austin as long as he did last year, but their development program works, and you can point to players who didn't need to go down to the G League and have success. I can point to you and tell you a million players who also didn't go to the G League and flamed out immediately. We don't necessarily have a control group, which is the issue. The only thing I can tell you is that what the Spurs do works. So if it works, then why complain about it? Because they rarely mess up, in their whole. And there goes Tyrell Terry to Dallas.
Interesting. Okay.
So now you have a team, which could be fun to watch.
Do you think they? I mean, what do you think his role will be year one? Do you think he's
I
NBA ready, or do you think he needs
I
to
don't
find the
I don't
barbell that bad?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe like a small role, like off the bench. But I mean, I think he needs like a year. Like you got to get him. He's got to be conditioned a bit more.
Yeah.
Just he's, like, and there are 72 games this year versus 82, so that's going to help a little bit. But just the grind of an NBA season is so taxing on your bodies, and like, for those out there, I was able to cover Gonzaga basketball for 4 years, and during my time there was when like Sabonis went to Indiana and went to Oklahoma City, got drafted, and I just remember like hearing stories of like that first year, just and being like, man, like you get to game like 30 and 40, and like your body is just hurting.
Yeah.
So like when you're just not quite there physically, like maybe Tyrell Terry can have like a hot start, but like he just needs time to build up his body. I mean, think of like Bryn Forbes coming into the league.
Right.
Obviously Tyrell Terry has a extremely, extremely higher ceiling than Bryn Forbes. I'm purely just talking about
Build.
like Bryn needs some time. And look at him, he's yoked now. But like,
Right.
it just like Terry's just gonna need some time.
Speaking of builds, I keep thinking about Xavier Tillman, man, because he's listed at 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan and 245 pounds as a center. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he he made a couple of threes. He's not going to be a big 3-point shooter right out of the gate, but this is a guy who helped Michigan State to win 77% of the games that he
Mm-hmm.
played in. This is a guy who is so disruptive playing pick and roll defense that teams just stopped trying because he was so disruptive, even as an undersized center. So, there are a lot of things there that to me say, could be one of those overlooked guys who falls to the Spurs, and they um, get a player who maybe doesn't have all the physical tools, but is a winner and a
Yeah,
gamer and knows how to play.
yeah. I think I see somebody had an NBA comp for him as Derek Favors esque,
Yeah,
it's slash Kyle O'Quinn. Um, I
yeah,
haven't
that's
dug
about
into
right.
any specific NBA comp on Tillman, but yeah, I think he's just a guy who he's also a guy. I mean, he's older, definitely NBA ready, and he will fulfill a role and do it well. And he's not going to do anything crazy in the box score, but he's going to provide great minutes for you. And again, I mean, you couldn't get a better dude. Like I have a really good friend who works in that market covering Michigan State. So through his work, I'm able to see a bit more of Michigan State than a lot of some other guys that pop up and whatnot. And I just remember like just following them through the season, just being like, I'm so impressed with this dude. This dude's good. Like so, do it just depends what the Spurs want. I definitely think they need a bit more size. If they do take like an Xavier Tillman or Oturu out of Minnesota, I do think that maybe Metu's time in San Antonio is over.
Yeah,
right.
probably.
So, but yeah, I mean, I would say also you have to consider Teo Maladon if he drops that far, right? Like,
Right, for sure.
he dropped significantly, and there are some red flags, and that's why he's here. But at 41, he's
Great. For me, at 41, after you've already attacked positional need with your top pick, I say just take the best player available, whoever you think that is. If it's a big man, great. If it's a guard, great.
Charlotte's taking Vernon Carey.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an
we've
interesting.
reached that point of the draft now where the big boys, have like
Yeah, because
undrafted grades
these are
that
the
teams just
darts.
take because they like them. Yeah, absolutely. Um, we're gonna have to wrap it up here before the Spurs throw their dart in the second round. But if you had to predict who it is, who do you think it's gonna
Uh,
be?
I'll go with Tillman.
I'm gonna go with Arturo. I think he would be a
Yeah,
similarly good fit. But if they wind up with either one of those guys, awesome second round pick.
yeah. I'm totally on board with both.
And before we go, just your final thoughts on how this draft played out.
The draft played out pretty much like not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 how the picks went as we all expected, but coming in, I think if we were all putting money on a player that the Spurs were going to draft, Devin Vassell would have been the favorite, and that's who the Spurs got.
Yep.
And there were going to be a litany of names if the Spurs chose them. I like this pick, but Devin Vassell is somebody who fulfills a need and a want. It's sometimes hard to do both at the same time, but that is exactly what you get in Vassell. And from everything that I heard in the interview process, he knew exactly what his role was going to be, and that's to come in and just soak everything up. Defense and long term, again, I mentioned it before, but long term, the San Antonio Spurs are going to be an absolute nightmare defensively. And if they can
Terrifying.
find, or it's just like as long as they can get some sort of offensive production, like they are going to be a deadly team. They are building up crazy length, and that as far as from the 6'4" to the 6'10" range, that's where they're going to be living, and they're going to be a very long team. It's funny that they drafted Vassell because they remind me of they're building kind of like a Florida State-esque team that when you look at them on the court, you're like, holy crap, they're all so long. But man, it's a really exciting pick. It's been a long time for San Antonio Spurs fans to bring this kind of caliber player on draft night into the organization. And I don't know what this season is going to bring for the San Antonio Spurs, but the future remains extremely bright.
Our our friend Jackson Floyd just said Josh Richardson to Dallas.
Interesting.
That's a thing.
That's a
Interesting. All right, I will give just my last thoughts here on the Vassell pick.
and Oturo's being taken by the Knicks, so there goes.
Okay, but going into this night, I kind of feared that after all the smoke about the Spurs trying to move up, they were going to keep the 11th pick. They were going to pick somebody, and it was going to really annoy a lot of fans. And I really don't think that you can be upset with this pick. I don't. I mean, it's a great value pick. This is a guy who could have been gone as early as 6 or 7, um, and he fits in like one of them round pegs. You know, he's exactly the type of, like, if you could build a player in the lab for this Spurs team, it's probably Devin Vassell. Um, so while I'm sure there are fans who are upset that Denny didn't slide all the way to 11, I know Jackson's upset about that. I know I would have loved to see Denny in a Spurs uniform. Um, but the Spurs holding on to this 11th pick and getting Devin Vassell is um, it's going to be hard to be upset with, especially once we get him on the court and see what he can do and how he fits with these other guys. I'm excited. I know you're excited. We'll be keeping an eye on what the Spurs do with this second pick. And when that guy becomes available to talk to, we'll try to get in a few questions with him, get those videos up. But yeah, all of our coverage is on KENS5.com. My name's Tom Petrini, at Real Tom Petrini on Twitter.
Descending Seth Curry to Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, interesting. Evan, tell the
And you're
people where
not
they can
crazy
find
for
you.
liking Killian Tilly, by the way. Killian Tilly's a great prospect. Just injury history is a very, very big question mark.
Evan, it's just at Evan Klosky, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending the night here, and I'm excited, guys. I hope you are too. All right. Signing off for the night from the Big Fun Pod. We'll keep you up to date on KENS5.com, and have a good night, guys. Thanks for hanging
Yeah,
out with
have a
us.
good one.